So thank you for joining us today. Now, next up, I am extremely excited to welcome Kimi Evans to the table.
Yes. Hi. Thanks for having me.
So I know Kimi has a powerful burnout story to share. And Kimi is also a great friend of mine. And we've met through collaborative leadership work that we've done together. And what hit Kimi and I off was our conversation around the neuroscience and the role that our minds and really play on our burnout and things like that. So before I invite Kimi up to speak, I just want to take a second to introduce her to you. So Kimi Evans is a former Hollywood casting director, a Los Angeles-based news personality, and current media visibility and virtual event impact strategist. She also owns a Pilates studio, and she coaches entrepreneurs on how to increase credibility by getting on TV, increasing visibility, connecting with the audience on camera, and hosting virtual events. She has over 15 years of experience on television and helps entrepreneurs generate more leads in their businesses. So I'm excited to have Kimi here to share a bit about her burnout story, and then to speak into a little bit her area of expertise on visibility, but also how can this sometimes contribute to the burnout and the fears that I know we've spoken into a lot today around our thoughts and the results that we are creating based on the things that we believe. So over to you, Kimi.
All right. Well, thanks, Alex. Thank you so much, Carol. Thanks for having me. So burnout, you guys, I got to tell you, so I was in the news industry for 15 years. I was working on camera, on air, and I'm a morning show person. So they kind of segment people out, morning show, evening. Usually a lot of times if you see those morning shows, they're typically a little more like peppy, a little spunky. Hey, we've got a cooking segment. How's it going, everybody? Here's your weather and traffic, on. And I'm a meteorologist, so I would do a lot of weather. Well, the morning show that starts at 4 a.m., some places 5, but here in Los Angeles, 4 a.m. means we're at the TV station at 3 a.m., which means you're waking up at like 1 or 2 a.m. to get to work. Although a lot of people roll in looking homeless, their hair's all crazy, they come in their PJs, whatever it takes. But all of that to say, imagine what it's like to wake up at 2 a.m. every day for 15 years. And then try to have a little normalcy one day a week. Because Friday, I would wake up super early. So Friday night, I was toast, right? I was donezo. But by Saturday, I'm like, woo, I can live a normal life. Great. But Sunday, you got to go to bed early again. So you can't really do a lot on Sunday. In the afternoon, you can do some stuff. But as somebody who had been single for so long, imagine what that's like, going on dates. And they're like 7 p.m. and you're like, 3 p.m. dinner, you're like 6 p.m. dinner, you're like 4. So things just don't work. And so as you're trying to make life work with a crazy schedule, you start making compromises for your health, your sanity, all of those things that really matter. And at some point, and in my case, 15 years was that point, I guess, at some point, the burnout happens. But it had already been happening. My doctors were telling me to quit my job. It was adrenal fatigue. My sleep was messed up. I didn't have circadian rhythm. And it just takes a toll emotionally and physically in ways that you don't really see. It's not that I hate the industry. It's that I didn't like the lifestyle and it wasn't ideal for me. So at some point there was that burnout. So I had to make changes to take care of myself. And that can be the case with anybody in any industry, whether you're working or not, but whatever it is, if you're not taking care of you and doing things in a way that's healthy for you emotionally, physically, mentally, then burnout will happen. So when that happens, not if it happens, but when it happens, you need to be able to take care of yourself. So if you have the ability to make the shifts and changes early on and implement things prior to the burnout happening, I mean, how glorious is that, right? So my advice to everybody is don't wait for the burnout to actually happen, because we all live in a state of burnout. So why live there? Because it's actually not a pleasant place to be. So if you can pull yourself up and out of it sooner, I mean, you have so much more time to actually live a thriving life, like full of purpose and joy, and without the exhaustion and the spin around. Like even now, I'm so happy to be here with you guys. I love me some Alex time, so this is great. But currently my house is getting fumigated, so I'm not in my home. Yesterday I was schlepping things out of my house and the people were showing up and going on my roof and doing all the things. My entire community is getting fumigated. So I'm not at home. An hour ago, I was at the car dealership because my car had to get serviced. 30 minutes ago, I was at Starbucks because girls got to be ready for all things. And so I'm just saying, I am able to do all these things without the burnout. And I remember the days when I would do a virtual event, I would do a speaking engagement, and I would freak out in advance, and I'd be up all night prepping and all the things. But at some point, things just kind of cruise. At some point, it just clicks. And at some point, you don't need the rat race to make it happen. And would I have loved to have been here for the whole event? Yes. But do I have other things happening right now in my life that I had to take care of? Yeah. And so I get to make all the pieces work. I get to be here for this event, which I'm honored to be included in. And I get to take care of the fumigation, and I get to take care of the things without the burnout, because I have now been able to manage all of the things. And that would not have been the case years ago. I would have been frantic. Like, oh my gosh, this is happening. Oh my gosh, what do you mean I have to pack up my house and be out for a week? Oh my gosh, where am I going to go? Oh my gosh. And then that like spirals. So being able to manage your mindset and being able to manage that burnout prior to it happening is delightful. So anyway, that was that. So that's my story with burnout. And so I ended up moving on out of the news industry. And now I help people make appearances on TV. And that's what the visibility is about. So when I teach visibility, it has a lot to do with getting visible in front of the media, because it's really important to be able to do that, because it adds instant credibility to whatever your business is. So when people are looking at different companies, let's say a donut shop, they're looking for a donut shop. Well, which is the best donut shop? They all have 5-star reviews. Oh my gosh, I looked on Yelp, they're all great. But let's say you're checking out their websites because you're actually hosting a big party and you decided donuts was the thing. Well, they all look great, but they all have beautiful websites, but the one that has the as seen on, those are the ones that stand out, especially if they have a clip, and then you hit the clip and you're like, oh, look at what they can do. And then you're engaging with them a little bit because they've been on TV, you feel like you know them. So that's why I always say it's great to get those as seen on. That's what I help people with, but you'd be surprised. I know, Alex, you mentioned that some people are afraid to be visible, right? Like there's a fear. And that goes with anything. There's fear that drives everybody. And everything is on the other, like all the goodness, all the possibilities, all the great things are on the other side of that fear. But people are so afraid to bump up against their fear and to push through that fear that they don't realize all the good stuff is right on the other side of it. And if people realize that early on, if we taught children in school that all the good stuff is on the other side of fear, imagine what they would be accomplishing. Imagine all the kids' lives that would be saved because they think the bullying is forever and that's the end of that. And then they spiral. A lot of them take their lives on and on. Things happen. But if we can teach people that fear is good, that it's an indicator that, oh, I get to push through this. Fear is like a signal that says, this is the direction you get to go in. And if we see it as like, it's the pathway, that's what I need to do. And fear is just false evidence appearing real, right? You guys have probably heard that. It's just not a real thing. And so many people let that be the barrier for their lives. And imagine everything we can accomplish. So I teach people how to overcome that fear so that they can put themselves out there, because there are so many people crippled in life because they think fear is the big barrier. And it breaks my heart because they have so much potential. There's so many possibilities for them. And you see them playing small and you think, if only they could see how great they are. If only they could see what they could accomplish. If they could see themselves from the lens that I see them, they would know that that fear is so small and that is nothing. And they just need to like push right through that. And then everything opens up for them. So it's a place where I wish more people would lean into and go.
Can you speak into that a little bit more? Because a lot of times with high performers, they set themselves up for failure in a sense because of the high standard or bar they're setting themselves up, which is why a lot of high performers tend to burn out. But you said something there, which was really, really powerful. High achievers are oftentimes chasing and chasing and chasing the validation that they're good enough. They tie their worth to their work. And so because they're unable to see themselves, they compare themselves and they're afraid that they're going to be found out. Like, how do you support your clients what is like for the audience and when they're hearing you today, like what is something that you can support them in and being able to have that shift to be able to see themselves, just like you're saying that you see your clients?
Well, a lot of it has to do also with visualization, right? You visualize yourself where you want to be and you embody that. Because here's the thing, like I tell people about my very first, so the last station I worked at was the ABC station in Los Angeles. That is the #1 station on the West Coast. It's #1 station at the second largest market in the entire country. So that's sort of a place that a lot of people are trying to get to in this news industry. So I achieved a great deal. I climbed the ladder and I got to where I wanted to go. But my very first time, like when I made my very first resume reel, it was one of these. As you can see, behind me at the hospital, it is very dangerous. It was hideous, guys. It was terrible. It was just a train wreck. But you do those small things anyway. You just do them because it's not the confidence you need. I do teach camera confidence, but it's not the confidence, it's the courage, because confidence comes because you face the fear, because you push through. So you have courage, and then you have another step of courage, and another step of courage, and another step of courage, and another step of courage. Another step of courage, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm feeling confident and I got this. But it's not until you lean into the fear and then you take those steps of courage that you get there. So imposter syndrome is a lie, is what it is. Because I will tell you, the people that I've worked with at the very highest levels in the media, they have imposter syndrome. There are plenty of like big time actors in these major movies. I was a casting director as well. They have imposter syndrome. So think about all the biggest actors you can think of, and you're like, oh, they're so good. Oh, they got an Oscar. Everybody's recognizing them. All of my friends, everybody I know, all my colleagues, everybody has an Emmy, has this award, that award. They have all these awards, yet they all have imposter syndrome. Why is that? Why is it that every single person I know has imposter syndrome? Does that mean they are all imposters? No, they're not all imposters. Nobody's an imposter. It's just there's a standard. So I teach a thing about social media too and what's out there. So everyone's comparing their lives, as we know, to everybody else's highlight reel. And that's why I call it fake book and Insta scam. Because guys, it's a lie. It's a lie, it's a lie, it's a lie. Nobody lives that perfect life. Everybody has a day. What if everybody posted their real stuff? Like having a fight at home with your spouse, or eating bonbons on the couch, crying because you're lonely, or trying to clean, but you're lazy, and you're trying to do your workout, but you're like, nah, and then you're eating ice cream instead, whatever it might be, or you're chasing the kids around and instead they're throwing tantrums or being rude, and you're like, oh my gosh. But what you put online is the perfect family photo or your perfect career photo, when everything looks like it's falling apart. Like I could show you what my setup is right now. As I said, I'm not even at home. I have like 3 lights up. I'm at a coffee table or a dining table that got moved to a place with a little more light. I mean, you make it happen. Does that mean I'm an imposter? Some might think so, and that's okay, because that's their opinion. That's about them, and their opinion doesn't matter to me because it's not about me, it's about them. And so I think if everyone can get to the point where, and it's a constant work in progress, right? Because sometimes we do feel judged and we do feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. But the thing is, everybody starts somewhere, and I don't know that that ever goes away. I feel like when I speak to, because I do a lot of speaking at high schools and students, I speak to students, and I'll ask the question, I'll say, how many of you have been bullied? And they all raise their hands. I'm like, okay, well, how many have been bullied online? They all raise their hands. I'm like, okay. And so then we dig in and I say, guess what? I'm going to let you know something. That's never going to change, because it never changes. And then I show them, I read them some of the tweets that I've received as a media personality on television. People are coming at me. And I'm like, see, look at that tweet. You guys may not tweet because that's for old people. I get it. It's cringy, but look at that tweet, like, I'm sorry, it's not a TikTok, but look at that tweet. That shows that people are in attack mode. But here's what I'm going to show you. Let's go to that person's page. Now you go to their Twitter account and you see that they're tweeting that way to everybody. They're just an angry person. They're hurt. There's anger underneath all that hurt. So when they are coming at you, whether it's visible to you where they actually say things, or it's behind the scenes, or it feels like they're just judging you, but you don't really know it. But even when they come straight at you, or they're direct messaging you, or whatever, or they're commenting and putting rude things, that's an indicator of their life and their situation. And we take it on as if it matters to us in some way, shape, or form. And that is a big lie we buy into. And then we compare, and comparison is the thief of joy. And so we have to always remind ourselves, and it's almost like we all need one gigantic support group that reminds each other that no, these are lies. And I actually had that. To give you guys a little info, a little secret info, there is a Facebook group for meteorologists across the country. There's over 500 of us from everywhere, from everyone from the small little towns to Ginger Z's on Good Morning America. Like, we're all in it. And we post things in there, like crazy things that people have commented on or messaged us about. We'll post and be like, this dude, look what he said. And this lady's commenting about my outfit. This one thinks I gained some weight. Like, what? On and on. People are just rude. They just want to complain. And so it's a place for us to vent, because we're media personalities. We have to hold it together. Like, we can't attack. We can't go on attack mode. But what we realize is it's okay to vent about it, but that doesn't define who we are. And it's just an indicator of who they are. And if we could tell our minds the same thing, and this is where I think what you guys are doing is brilliant, because if we could train our brain into realizing that it has nothing to do with us, but everything to do with their state of mind and where they're at, then man, there's so much freedom in that. And I will tell you, as somebody, this is something I haven't shared publicly too much. I'm only now starting to share it, but a year ago, the power of the mind though, and that's why I love this neuro work that you guys do. But a year ago, I stopped taking narcotic pain medication that I had been on for a minute. What's a minute? 17 years. That's a minute. So I was on that because the doctors kept saying, there's no other way. There's no other way. Like, this is it. You're not a candidate for surgery. And I'm like, I'm still in all this pain. So they were like, okay, well, this is what you need to do. This is how you resolve it. 3 different types of medications, taking 10 pills a day or what have you. And one of them's a narcotic, and that's how it goes. Well, I started to do some serious neuro work, and that was a little over a year ago. So it was last April, started in March, I believe. And by April, all of a sudden I realized, I don't think I've taken my pain medication for a little minute. How many days has it been? And I realized it had been about a week. I'm like, I didn't even notice. And then I was like, oh, okay, but probably because I had kidney stones and the pain was diverted there. Or, oh, it's because I lost my voice and I have laryngitis right now. So the pain is just distracted. So I just waited. A month passed. I'm like, wow, a whole month without pain medicine? First time in 17 years? I better not say anything, because I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. 2 months passes and I'm like, okay, well, now I feel pretty confident that this is working. So I feel pretty confident in the sense that this must be real. Like, now it's real. So maybe I'll start sharing it or telling a few people. So I started to sort of tell a few people. So all of that to say, I didn't have the confidence to believe in what was actually happening in my life until I gave it enough time where there was enough evidence built up that I believed it truly. And that applies, I think, everywhere in our lives. But all of that to say, the mind is so powerful. The brain is so powerful, and our subconscious thoughts are so powerful that if we allow ourselves to learn a little bit more about this and lean into it and really come to people like Alex and Carol and understand the why behind it and see how we can shift things, oh my gosh, imagine what we can do. And as high performers, we're always trying to achieve at a high level and achieve with perfection. Well, there's no such thing, because it's all about progress, not perfection. And we get stuck in a rut. We don't get anything done if we're aiming for perfection. And the reality is it's not relatable. And I teach that on TV. And I actually teach people how to work in on purpose, work in mistakes. That might seem counter to you, but I teach people to work in a mistake, an error, because that allows people to connect. Nobody connects with perfection. Nobody. And so if you show up all perfect, 0 people will connect with you because it's not real. So why would you want to do something where 0 people connect with you? Why not show the real stuff? Even my drink, like I'm not afraid to drink my latte in front of you guys while I'm speaking. And some people will say that's not professional, Kimi, you shouldn't do that. Okay, got it. But I'm gonna drink my drink anyway, because guess what? That's what people do when they're human. Humans do things that robots don't. So why not live like a human? Let's just be human. So, and then always closing the loop for people. So perfection is just one of those things that's just such a falsehood. But I always say, like, you got to close the loop for people. If something goes wrong when you're speaking, like something flies across or something, you're like, oh, look at that. I was doing my mascara a little while ago. So that's my mascara. And whoops, I like let it fly. Yeah. So that's what that was. All right. Anyway, and you continue. Why do I point out the fact that this flew across? Because you all saw it, and it would be weird if I didn't. I close that loop for you. And why do I say it's mascara? Because that's relatable. We're all on Zoom right now, and you don't need to be picture perfect. But why would it be weird that I would have mascara that I would put on to come on Zoom? That's not weird. That's normal. So let's be human and let's give grace for human. But most importantly, like I'm a big believer that we need to give ourselves grace. Because if we don't, then we don't get visible. And if we don't get visible, we don't have a business. If we don't have a business, then what are you doing? You don't need to have a business if that's your choice. But if you're trying to have a business or you have a business, then what in the world are you doing hiding? Like, what is that about? It's not going to get you anywhere. You need to be visible and you need to put yourselves out there, which is why I teach people how to do virtual events like the one Alex and Carol are doing now. Like, this is a way to connect with people and reach people. And we all need to be out there. So I don't know that I answered the question because I like to go on tangents. That's sort of my superpower. But Alex, what you got for me?
That was, I mean, just the chat. I mean, that was really, really impactful. Thank you so much, because you're being honest, you're being raw, and you're being real. And you're right. There's just so much of not that out there. And a lot for high performers are driving, needing to look perfect and needing to transparency. I sit up late trying to look at all the things in the schedule and all the things, to put all the finishing touches on it. And a lot of times high performers will get caught in that, right? And because they want it to look all perfect and put together, because again, what will people think of Carol and I if it's not this way or that way?
Oh, I'm judging you very much so, very much so.
And so, but those things are often will drive those beliefs and those thoughts will drive our decisions, which drive our actions and create the results. So I'm really curious to know, because I think it was one of our mentors, Michael Strasner, shared with me one time that the fear of public speaking, the fear of speaking on stage is the number one fear out there. So knowing that this is something that you really coach into and speak into in some way, shape, or form, even for everyone to be on here today, to have your camera on, that can actually have people feel uncomfortable. And it leads so much into, you've spoken to the confidence, you've spoken to the courage, and how that also leads into how people are afraid to be perceived or judged and criticized. And again, it's all that mental dialogue that will contribute to the path of burnout. I'm really curious to know how you support those and help them with whatever their thoughts are, and helping them in taking that step and taking that leap to move through and move past all the fears of judgment, criticism, and the fear on visibility and speaking on stage that come up for them.
Yeah, well, a lot of it too, keep in mind, is practice, right? You just need to do the thing. Just do the thing and be terrified. Like, if your heart is racing, your palms are sweating, and you can hear your heartbeat in your ears, and you feel like your lungs are going to come up, out, and collapse on the ground, and you're going to die, great, you're doing a good job. Like, that's where you should be. Like, you're doing it. You're doing it. Like, that's how things are supposed to feel at the beginning. They're supposed to feel that way. And if you don't feel that way, that's weird, but it's supposed to feel that way. So great. That means you're human. You have a pulse. So anticipate that. Like, just know that that's going to happen. And if you feel terrified and you're like, did I wear Depends because I'm pretty sure I'm peeing my pants? Great. Wonderful. Like, that's being human. And that's what we all need to go through, is the experience of being human. And over time, it gets easier. You know, when I coach people, I let them practice within a safe space. So you get to practice in a safe space. And it's also tricky to even put yourself out in a safe space. Say, like right now, we're in a safe space right now. We're in a group here. There's 25 of us online right now. And if I said, everybody turn your cameras on, I don't care where you are, you're sitting on the toilet, it doesn't matter, turn your cameras on. And you're like, yeah, but I don't have any makeup on. You know, I'm doing this or that. So what? Turn your cameras on. And everybody does. Then there you go. You did it. Woo! Way to go. And then tomorrow you do something else. Oh, Adisa just turned her camera on. Like, thank you for doing that. Thank you so much. That sort of thing. Jean, your camera's on. Like, we have people with their cameras on. We have a lot of people with their cameras off, which is okay too. But the point is, this is a safe space. You get to do that. And then the more of this that you do, then you get comfortable in this setting. And then you take it to the next level. Okay, we're going to do it with a bigger group. Okay, a bigger group. Okay, now we're going to do it in a live setting, but just 10 people. Okay, now a live setting with 20 people. Little by little, you get to do that. But I will tell you this, it is so much easier to speak to a group of 2,000 people live than it is to speak to 20 people live. We all kind of can understand why, right? Because it's like, which is why people are like, how do you seem so comfortable on camera? I'm like, because I'm talking to a box, guys. I'm talking to a box. That's why. There's nobody else in here. Sometimes there's 2 other people in the studio space, but I'm literally talking to a box and I'm looking at myself because it's a mirror image. I'm used to seeing myself in the mirror and I'm used to talking to myself. I grew up as an only child. All of these things are normal to me. Like, I can sit there and talk to myself all day long. I got all kinds of conversations as if there's multiple personalities. There's not, but it's as if there was. But all that to say, like, it's easy, guys. It's actually, you don't need to make it so complicated, but the fear goes away. The very first time I was on TV, I thought I was going to die and things went wrong. Totally, things fell apart. The IFB, the earpiece that the producers talked to you in, that went out. The monitors that were supposed to be on, someone didn't turn them on, I guess. So I don't know those things and they just weren't working. I couldn't see myself. I didn't get the cue. I didn't know anything about the red light. All of a sudden, I'm just standing there the very first time and I'm standing there. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And then this red light turns on, but I don't hear the cue that we've been practicing. So I'm like waiting and I see the red light and no one's saying anything. The monitors are out. And I thought, is this an indicator that I should speak? These are thoughts that are racing through my head in a matter of seconds, right? So I thought I should probably just say something. So I just started speaking because the red light was on. Good thing I did, because somehow technology happens, right? And the earpiece wasn't working. They're like, did you hear us? I was like, I couldn't hear you. They're like, okay, we figured. And then the monitors weren't on. I didn't know what was going on. So that was my very first day. And then it just got easier after that. You just have to dive in and expect your heart to race, expect that heart attack feeling. Maybe don't drink too much caffeine in advance. That might help. But just know that everybody goes through it. And if you don't go through it, you don't get to the other side. And the other side is glorious. So you definitely want to be there. But, you know, it's practice too. The practice makes perfect. And perfect is also an illusion, but perfect for you, whatever that looks like. And I encourage everybody to do active listening. That's something I teach. But like this, when you're on a Zoom and there's a bunch of people on the Zoom and you're listening to a speaker, be an active listener, like participate, show that you're interested, tell your face that you're actually engaged, tell your face to show that you are interested in the topic. And that will encourage the speaker and give that speaker more confidence. As many Zooms as you get to be on, or like hold up a little heart like Alona just did, or Alex just did. You do things like that for the speaker, whoever the speaker is, and I will tell you, they will appreciate it, just like you would appreciate it if they did it for you. So that builds confidence in them. Yeah.
Kimi, I have several friends here today from Super Connector Media, actually, and I can so relate to your story because Chris Winfield of Super Connector told us the story in New York recently, and he showed us video that was hilarious. He was going for one of those early morning videos, and there was an interruption with the car getting there. They couldn't get him to the right building, and then dropped him off at the wrong spot. It's a hot day. He's running in a suit, finally gets in, and he shows the video. He's literally just dripping. and trying to be poised and present for the interview. And the two interviewers are looking at him like, what is wrong with this guy? Why is he on here? So I could totally relate to your story from hearing that one. And it made it so connectable. You're right. It really made it connectable and relatable. And the reason I'm popping on is because Sandy has a question for you about your camera training.
Well, Sandy, thank you for asking. You can actually jump into one of my next workshops. I can drop a link here. It's actually mediavisibilitypro.com/workshop. So when that's happening, you can come join one of those, or you can also DM me. I'm everywhere, guys. I am everywhere, but I really like Instagram. So I'll put in my handle here, Kimi Evans Media. So there it is. You can sign up for my next workshop. But yeah, I like to teach people how to be comfortable, confident on camera, because it does take practice and all the things that go with it. So I like people to get on TV. I like people to have that authority, that credibility, and do it the right way and make it easy so it's not so complicated and feel like a big fish in a small pond. And then you grow from there. It's a fun place to be. And once you start getting comfortable with it, like it's easy breezy. It's all at the end to do it without being perfect. That's my thing is, yes, look the part and all the things, especially if you're going on TV, but you don't need to be perfect. I realized I didn't bring clothes and I can't go back into my fumigated house. So I'm wearing a gray sweater that I happen to have. I'm wearing leggings because who doesn't live in yoga pants? I know all of you have yoga pants on. And then I'm wearing flip-flops. That's just how it goes. Even Carlene, she's looking all cute, but put money on the fact that she's wearing yoga pants. I really hope she's wearing yoga pants. How much more relatable is that? She just told you she's wearing her PJ bottoms, but look how pretty she looks. So she's got a necklace on. Yes, rock on. That's the stuff, guys. That is the stuff. And now all of you adore her that much more because guess what? She's being real. And real and being authentic and genuine is 100% better than trying to put on that show and pretend you are not who you are. Be you and show that we all have to show up on camera. So she looks lovely and it's appropriate, right? But it's kind of like a mullet. One thing up here and something else down there. It's all good because we've all been in a Zoom world for 2 years and it's fine. That's how we live. And if you're not living that way, then what's wrong with you? Like all the people who come on the shows when they wear their suit and tie because they're being interviewed on the news. You guys, when I worked in the news, just about every TV station I worked at, they would wear their suit and tie. And some people, like if they see full body, it's a different story. But all the guys are wearing a suit on top and shorts and flip-flops on the bottom. I kid you not. And all the women are wearing their dresses with leg warmers and Ugg boots on the bottom. And then they keep their heels next to them in case they have to do a full body shot. But that's just how it goes because it's freezing in the studio for the women and the men are roasting. So it is what it is. Everyone's living their best lives. But now in Zoom, you all are in on what we've been doing in TV for decades. So that's just the reality of it all.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kimi, for coming in and being so raw and real and honest. And speaking into that, being authentic, being you. Right. It's really tapping into you. And we've had many speakers speak into this, right? With your passions and your goals and your drives and your visions and your dreams, like getting connected to what's important to you and who you are.
Yes. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to chat with you guys. This has been fun. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.